Hey guys, Harry Wilmington here. From here on out, I am your introvert dating coach. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about why it is that women seem to be leaning more into their masculine energy these days. And then we're talking about the 5 ways that you can motivate a woman to actually be more in her feminine energy. In today's world, as you're trying to date, you may notice that more and more women are independent, they're thriving on their own. And as a result of that, when you're dating these women, sometimes you can feel the energy coming off of them and it feels very masculine. And I know sometimes as guys, we're like, well, what's the deal with that? Because I'm supposed to be a masculine guy. I thought women wanted masculine guys. Why is this woman feeling so masculine? And there's a few reasons why that has happened so frequently in today's world. Okay, so I'm gonna go do a short little list about what it is that some of those things are. So for starters, a lot of women today, just like a lot of guys, but a lot of women in particular, grew up in single mom homes. Okay, and so these were women that were growing up around women that didn't have a male influence in the home. Okay, so that means that I don't like the phrasing of the mom had to be the mom and the dad, but what happened is basically the mom, for whatever reason, her and the dad weren't together. The dad went away. And so you have a little girl that's growing up under a mom who has built up resentment and has a lot of hurt. And as a result of that, she had to toughen up. So she's raising her daughter in an environment where she's had to be tough. She's had to bring her own masculine energy because she's trying to block out pain. She wants to make sure that her little girl doesn't get hurt like she did. So she's basically teaching this little girl to grow up on her own, to be able to do things by herself. And that is very much a masculine energy because little boys, we do Boy Scouts. We grow up under other men that are showing us the way of the world and how to be able to be leaders of the pack and how to fend for ourselves and stuff like that. Well, it's not bad that women learn that, but the problem is that does take them away from the essence of their femininity when they have to do that. On top of when they're growing up in a single mom home, they're not getting lessons from a man on what to look out for. I'm not getting lessons from a man on what are men looking for in women in terms of the feminine side of things that's going to really attract them. They don't get those lessons at all because the man's not there. So as a result of that, you have women that grow up very guarded. You have women that grow up with basically a hard stone face and ones that do not, for whatever reason, want to be feminine. And it's not they're not trying to be. It's just that they've learned based on their mom's lesson that being feminine can result in you being alone, single, and out here with nobody to be with you. And so they just kind of learn, okay, so I guess using this masculine energy to try to get ahead in life is going to be better. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that a woman will be more masculine in part because she has a distrust of men. And this can be for a variety of reasons, some of which I'll get into a little bit later. But women who have a history of men doing them wrong, they're going to distrust those men. And part of them being guarded means they have to now put on a more masculine shield in order to protect themselves, quote unquote, from any possible future men that will try to misuse them and they won't be able to trust. Okay, so that's the second reason. The third reason why a lot more women today are acting more masculine is because they're being told to be independent. There's this lie that women have been sold about the independent woman, about the woman that can do it all on her own, about the woman that doesn't need any man, about the woman that's supposed to be able to take charge and do it for herself. The problem is we are not designed by nature to be on our own. I mean, even men, even if men have a better chance of surviving on their own, like say you're in the woods or whatever, and you got to build a hut, and you got to fend for yourself and kill food and do all that stuff, that doesn't mean that that's the preferable state for us to be in. So just like men, I don't believe are designed to be alone forever. Women are also not designed to be that way, but they've been sold this lie that they're going to be happier and more prosperous if they are independent. They actually get championed for that now. There are plenty of channels on YouTube and plenty of videos out there that's like, oh, go woman and you're a champion in feminism and you do what you want to do, girl. Don't let no man tell you whatever. And so again, part of that independent spirit means taking on the masculine role. Because if you're not trying to allow men in to, quote, tell you anything or to guide you in some way, that means you have to now be the own navigator of your ship. You have to be the one that's leading. You have to be the one that's taking charge. You have to be the one that's always making decisions. And again, those are typically like masculine energy roles. And it's not bad for women to be in that role at times, but a woman that has to be in that energy all the time, over time, will start to be a more masculine carrying woman. All right. That's the third reason. The fourth reason why more women act masculine today is because they've had to take on jobs that require masculine traits in order to advance. And this actually started in World War II when men had to go away and fight, and there was nobody here at the factories and stuff. So women had to go into the factories, had to go into the offices, they had to go into the boardrooms and take charge. And when the men got back, a lot of women said, you know what, I want to keep doing this stuff. Again, it's not a problem. It's just that, and I always say this, I keep saying this because there's been statistic after statistic and study after study that has shown that most women today, despite being in these masculine roles and despite taking on these jobs and being the head of corporations and all this stuff, are not happy because most of them are independent and thriving and they're single. And because women are typically the ones that are more social and they are more about relationships, the fact that they're not in a relationship makes them a lot more upset. But they're in these positions and roles that require more masculine energy. You figure a woman that's trying to be the head of a company and a CEO, and she starts at the bottom and she's trying to work her way to the top. She has to go through all these various levels and she has to take on this masculine energy in order to be able to compete with the other people around her, the majority of which are going to be men. So as a result of that, over time, she'll start doing things on her off hours when she's not at work that make her appear more masculine. I've actually dated a couple women like this, whereby, again, we started out, it was great. They were feminine when they were with me, but then over time, they were taking on these hard jobs. So they were getting more positions and getting higher in the company, and they'd come home and complain about their day, and this mother effer did this and blah, 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 and I had to do this and that. And it's like they're just exuding all this masculine energy. And I'm sitting there like, I don't want to hear any of this because this now it makes me look like I'm like dating a dude, and I'm not trying to do that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm trying to date a feminine woman. You're bringing a lot of masculine energy day after day after day. It ends up being a very hard thing. But women that are trying to get to the top like that can oftentimes have that kind of energy. And then the fifth reason why more women act masculine today is, unfortunately, this goes back to number 2 about distrust of men, is because of trauma. Many women have faced traumatic events from the hands of men. And as I said earlier, in order to protect themselves from that, they've had to take on a more masculine energy. That's why you have what they call the resting bee face, but that face that basically says, I have an attitude and I don't want you near me. That's a masculine face. The women that are like, well, I don't need no man, and all men are dogs and they just want that. That's all argumentative masculine energy. And so you take these things into account, and is it any wonder today why a lot of women typically err on the side of having more masculine energy? Now, the problem is you as a guy with your own masculine energy are seeing these women out, seeing them in the club, seeing them at, a friend's party, and you don't know this when you first meet them. You meet them and they're just like, okay, that you see they look good, they smell good, but then you start talking to them and you start seeing them in their environments and stuff like that, and they start putting out this masculine energy, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I wanted to date her, but she's not being the feminine version of energy that I need in order to make this work. And does she even want that? Because over time, if you see a lot of this, you can start to think, well, maybe it's just that's today's woman. Maybe just all women don't mind being in their masculine energy. They fought for the right to work at the various offices and to work at various things that we used to do mostly as guys, and to be able to, have their own places and take care of their own. They're all saying they're independent. So that must be what they want. And the reality is, despite the thing that is constantly being put out there, or the impression you're getting that women want this as their lifestyle and they don't really need a man to help them, that is not actually true. Because the reality is, women, even the ones that are in their masculine energy, still want a guy that is going to be masculine. And what they actually want is a guy that is masculine enough for them to where they can rest more in their feminine energy, which is where they actually legitimately want to be in the first place. And I actually want to show you this. I'm going to show you this TikTok video that I found the other day, and it really illustrates the point of what I'm talking about, okay? So just take a quick look at this video. Here we go.
Okay, so I was just thinking about this, and let me know what y'all think. But there has been times where I will be talking to a man, and I won't be feeling it, and people will be like, why? And I'll be like, he's just too nice. And people will look at me like I'm stupid. They'll be like, what do you mean he's too nice? Like, you want somebody mean? And I figured it out. It's not that I want somebody mean. It's just what I'm looking for in a man is masculine energy that is dominant over my masculine energy, so it can bring out my feminine energy. Does that make sense? Like, if I feel like I have more masculine energy than you do, then I feel like you can't really be dominant over me, and I can't be submissive, and my feminine energy can't come out. Does that make sense? Because it makes sense to me. Let me know what y'all think.
Okay, so you can hear what she said, right? She said that it's not for you guys that have said, oh, women just want a bad boy or whatever. She's saying it right there in plain English. When she says that she's not attracted to a nice guy, it's not even about the niceness or the meanness, because women aren't looking for mean guys. That is not what they're saying. I think in that instance, a lot of times women aren't coming up with the right vocabulary for us to understand what they actually mean. And that's the first time I've actually heard that placed really well, because we'll hear, I don't want a nice guy. And we're like, what? And we're taking it literally. We're taking it literally as she doesn't want a nice guy. But there's an undertone to that, which is that it's not about the niceness. Because I myself, I'm a gentleman. When I'm dating a woman, I am very cordial to her. But it's this thing of nice guys are oftentimes equated with guys that aren't willing to stick up for themselves. Then they carry about this feminine energy, okay? So when she says the part about she feels like if a guy is not masculine enough, and if he's not able to out masculine her masculinity, that she's not going to respect him, that's exactly what she means. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, how does that happen? How is it that, I mean, I'm a guy, I got guy parts, how am I not masculine enough? But the reality is, not only have women been raised under single mother households, but boys have too. And for example, me, when my dad died at 9 years old, I grew up in a single parent home with my mom. And as well-meaning as she was at times, even she was aware that she had to occasionally get us around our uncles or other guys to teach us some of the more masculine sides of ourselves, because she as a woman could not teach that, okay? But unfortunately, a lot of the time I was around my mom, my grandma, my aunts. And so just by nature of that, there were things I would do or say at times, or inclinations in my tone, how I'd move about, whereby it could give the impression of having more feminine energy than masculine energy. And that really affected me in my high school years, as well as in my early college years, because I didn't know what that was the thing until I started studying this on my own and realized, oh crap, I may have a few feminine energy traits that are showing up that I'm not even aware of, you know? I talk fast, for example. A lot of times talking fast is equated with feminine energy. I talk fast to this day. It's not one of the things I can really help at this point, but I do it. But I was able to work on some other things that I was doing which I'll get into when I answer the guy's question later. But all that to say, women are looking at you and they're reading off you what kind of energy you're putting out. Okay. So what are examples of things that guys do that give out feminine energy? Short example. If you ask her on a date and she's like, hey, where do you want to go? And you say, well, where do you want to go? Right. That right there. You're basically telling her, hey, I need you to make the decision. I need you to lead this thing. And that, my friend, is a masculine energy. That is an example of a thing that a woman does not actually want to do. And she's looking at you as the man to do them. If you're a guy that's passing those off, if you're a guy that's consistently texting a woman, that is female energy. If you're a guy that's trying to see her every single day when you first meet and you're obsessing over her and you're wondering when she's going to call you again, that is all feminine energy. And women can read that. And so women will get a good read of that early on and cut you out altogether as the choice of a possible suitor, because she does not want a guy that is exuding more feminine energy than she is. It's not to say you can't ever exude it. You know, for example, I like romantic comedies. Hey, that is unfortunately stereotypically a thing that mostly women like, but I can do that thing and it's totally fine. But there are other things that I do that are masculine traded, to where if I do a couple of things here and there that are more feminine energy leaning, it's not going to knock points off of me for a girl that's liking me. Okay. So for those that are wondering what you can do to motivate a woman to be her naturally feminine self, it's very, very simple. And that is, you have to tap into your masculine energy. Because if you're not tapped into your more masculine side, then she's going to have to tap more into her masculine side, where she does not want to be, and she is not going to want to date you as a result. So here are 5 ways that you can tap into your masculine energy as a way to motivate a woman to be her naturally feminine self. Okay. So number 1, Be willing to take the lead on things, okay? This means that when you are asking them for a date, you do not ask her where she wants to go. You plan the date. You mention 2 days that'll possibly work for you and maybe 2 times that'll work for you, and that's it. But you are the one that decides those things, okay? When she asks you a question about, hey, what movie do you want to see today, or where do you want to go, what do you want to do? Always have an answer. Because if you're trying to volley back and forth like, hey, well, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? That is, again, that's now her having to tap into her masculine energy to answer those questions, okay? And keep in mind, when women start dating you, they're looking at you to be a leader because they're thinking long-term. If we have kids, if, job things come up where moving decisions have to be made, if I get sick and we need to decide how to get me to the hospital, what kind of treatment, et cetera, will he be there and be able to make those kind of decisions? If you're not, then she's going to have to make them, which means she's going to feel more like the leader, which means she's going to feel more like the man in the relationship. And that is not a place where you want to be. So you have to learn to be able to be comfortable with taking the lead on things. Yes, there will be times that you'll make a decision and it'll be a mistake and it'll be the wrong one, but you are going to still gain brownie points with the woman for at least being willing to take that risk and make the decision than to back away or to try to leave it on her, okay? When women go to work in the day, they're already stressing out on the fact that they got to go to work and make decisions. When they get home and when they come to see you, they really don't want to. Most women are just like, I just want the guy to lead and do whatever, and I don't have to think about anything, okay? So be comfortable in that role. That's the first way that you can really make her be more motivated to be in her feminine energy. The second way is to be more confident and relaxed. Now, this may sound like a stereotypical thing to say, so I'm going to preface this by saying it's not always like this. This is a generality, okay? But on average, given the two sexes, women are typically the ones that are a little bit less confident about the way they move about in the world, about the decisions that they're making, and they're the ones that typically have a lot more anxiety. Women on average have more anxiety issues than guys do, okay? But I said this to say, you as a guy need to then be more confident and more relaxed, because when she has craziness going on in her world, when the storms are brewing, when things are going on that she can't seem to control, she's going to look to you to see how you're taking things. And if you're also over there panicking and bugged out, don't know what's going on, again, she can try to tap out of it, which she's going to have to now tap into that masculine energy to try to get herself back on track. But I promise you, the women that I've dated that have gone through various turmoils, and they look at me and I'm just like, oh, we can figure this out. Oh, it's not gonna be a problem. Or, hey, babe, we'll get through it. We'll figure out something. Those are situations where the women come back later and say, I'm so glad that I was able to lean on you. I was glad that you were able to help me kind of like, see things for what they really were, that it wasn't as bad as I thought, and that I was able to get out of this thing, okay? Women need that from you. If you're the one that's constantly like worrying and self-pitying and you're not relaxing, you're always anxious about stuff, women aren't going to feel that they can trust your emotions. They're not going to feel like you're going to be the guy that can lead them anywhere, and they're not going to want to stick around, okay? So just learn to become more confident and relaxed, okay? This is where being indifferent comes into play, because the less that you allow things to control your emotions, you're going to be more even keel in the head, and you're going to be the one that's able to think in situations where there's turmoil going on. Like you'll be the calm in the storm, and it's like, okay, let me just sit here for a little bit and think about what's going on, and let's figure out a solution. And that energy is needed when she's chaotic, because you both cannot be chaotic at the same time. That will never work for her, and it will not work for the relationship. That's number 2. The third way to motivate a woman to be her naturally feminine self, honestly, is to stand up for yourself and your opinions. And this means sometimes having difficult conversations, and sometimes it means having to put her in her place. I don't like that phrasing, but that's the best way I can think of it, is putting her in her place. Meaning, if she comes to you and she starts trying to bark at you or yell at you, or she's disagreeing with you in some way and she wants to start snapping off, that is her masculine energy coming out. That's the point where she's saying, I'm using my masculine energy to get at you. What are you going to do? And these are the times where you have to basically out-masculine her to the point where it basically shuts her down and she gets back into her feminine, okay? Now, this is not to say you have to be rude or disrespectful, but what it does mean is that these are times where you have to be firm in your convictions. You might have to say some stuff like, hey, you're not going to talk to me like that. You have to put parameters around how this person is going to treat you when these difficult conversations come up, okay? And recognize this, is that women are always going to be the ones typically to come to you with some kind of problem or issue, because you as a guy most of the time are going to be like, hey, if she's treating me with respect and she's loyal, everything's fine. But women are going to find things that sometimes feel nitpicky, or for example, they might have a different opinion than you about something. You might be trying to do some kind of action. I know as an introvert, a big one back in the day was I wanted to have my alone time. And sometimes that meant going out of town by myself to just be by myself. And some women had a problem with that. But the point is that these conversations, when they come up, women need to have them, because women talk things out in order to be able to get to a certain kind of feeling tone about something to resolve some stuff. And I know as guys, we don't always want to talk about stuff. And sometimes we're like, well, you want to acquiesce to, well, I don't want to have this be a fight, so I'm going to just give her whatever she wants. But women don't actually want that. What they want is the conversation. And honestly, women also sometimes want to feel your masculine energy hitting up against theirs so they can back down. Like, in order for her to feel feminine sometimes, she needs to feel you putting her in her place. She needs to feel you, talking back to her and saying, hey, you're not going to treat me like this, and I'm going to tell you my opinion, and if you don't like it, then tough crap, you're going to have to deal with it, this and that. Like, sometimes women need to feel that in order to actually feel that you have a masculine presence about you. And there were so many times in my past, I remember, like, I'd be dating women, and a fight would start, and I would just try to be like, well, okay, well, I see your point of view. Well, okay, I get it. Well, maybe I was wrong, this and that. And then they actually seemed unhappy afterwards that I was agreeing with them, and unhappy that whatever position I had, I changed it. Because now it means, in what that means is that they are now leading this conversation. They're now leading what I'm thinking about. And that is doing what? It's inadvertently putting them in their masculine energy where they don't want to be. But then why, Harry, would they have an argument with me? Because again, sometimes they got to get it off their chest, but they're still looking for you to handle it in a way that is more masculine than how they're presenting it. And if you do that enough times, then what will happen is when women come to you, they'll be more respectful, and they'll, even if they have a strong disagreement with you, they'll present it to you in a way that is more feminine and less masculine. So they won't feel like they're trying to fight you like gladiator style. Instead, they'll be able to come to you and say, hey, so, I have this issue, I want to talk about it, and, blah, blah, blah. And you'll still have that softer voice when she comes to you with stuff versus barking at you. But that only happens if you're able to not run away from these conversations, stand up for yourself, and actually say to her, like, hey, this is what it is. This is how you're going to treat me. This is what I stand for. And if you don't like it, then I'm sorry, but I'm not changing it for nobody. Okay. That'll actually keep her in her feminine energy. So that's number 3. The fourth way to motivate a woman to be in her naturally feminine self is to anticipate her needs and make decisions without her input. So anticipating needs is simple. It just means if you're with a woman long enough, she says some stuff, she'll mention some things that she wants, she'll mention some things that she really cares about, some stuff that she's passionate about, et cetera, et cetera. Just being able to anticipate when women say stuff, just pay attention, and then you can anticipate, okay, maybe there's a way for me to do this thing or get this thing. And just being able to pay attention. This goes back to the whole thing of, like, later in life, as situations are occurring, you're going to be the one that needs to be looking out for, okay, what's coming up soon? What's going to be happening? How are we paying for this house? How are these bills getting paid? How are we going to get these kids into school? So being able to anticipate with her is going to equate to her as, oh, this is a guy that is looking out for everything in the relationship, including my needs, his needs, other people's needs, other possible kids' needs, et cetera, et cetera. And that's going to put her in a place where she feels she can trust you, because not only are you making decisions, but you're able to anticipate what those needs are going to be, which means you're intuitive and you're able to really make her feel as if you get her. Okay. Women want to be with guys that get them and that aren't going to punish them for it. And then the 5th way to motivate a woman to be her naturally feminine self is to be a sex machine. And I know that sounds like, what? Like, what are you talking about? No, I'm serious. I mean, you need to study up on sex. You need to ask her what she likes in the bedroom or what things she wants to try in the bedroom. You need to be studying the Kama Sutra. You need to be studying up various positions you can try. You need to be looking up ways to make yourself as much of a sexually satisfying experience as possible, because all the other things I mentioned on this list are absolutely great. And you can be all those things, but if you're able to really be in tune with a woman's body, that is as masculine as you can get. Because I'll tell you right now, a majority of other guys out here are not doing that. They're not paying attention to what the woman's needs are. They're just assuming they're going in there, putting their stuff in her, doing a few licks here and there, and they got it on lock. They can't tell she's faking it or not because they don't know how to read it, and they don't care. They don't care. They're just like, you know what? I'm going to be here and do what I want to do, and hopefully if I'm getting off, it must mean that she's getting off too. But if you really want her to be in her feminine, you have to be the guy that is so in tune with her body and what her needs possibly are, that she'll have mind-blowing orgasms, and she will just naturally turn into that ultra feminine woman, because a woman in the bedroom wants to play the feminine role. Most women in the bedroom honestly don't want to take charge. They want you to lead the interaction. They want to be thrown around and tossed and smacked and you got to ask these questions, but spanked on the butt. They want to have their hair pulled. They want to be choked at times. And these are all things that say, I want to be submissive to the guy that I'm with. And if you're afraid, if you're a guy that's like, well, I don't want to hurt her, I want this and that, then you are missing out, guy, and you're not tapping into your side of masculinity. That is the primal part that says, I'm going to take what I want and get it from this woman. Again, with her consent, of course. You want to make sure you have consent with all that stuff. But assuming a woman's giving you consent and okay, she doesn't want to be asked a lot of questions in the bed. I mean, she wants you to know what she likes. But most women are still down to like, hey, so I've had women tell me times, hey, you know what, tonight, whatever you want to do. What is that saying? I'm submissive to you. I trust you. Whatever you want to do as a masculine guy, bring your masculine energy to me. I want to be in the feminine role of just being able to take it all in, but you can do whatever you want in order for me to take that in. Okay. So that's a very, very important thing. So if you're a guy that's a virgin, or a guy that hasn't had a lot of sex, or a guy that's had sex but hasn't had a lot of repeats, that may mean that you need to start studying up to be a better partner for somebody. Okay. So to recap, the 5 ways to motivate a woman to be her naturally feminine self. 1, be willing to take the lead. Number 2, be more confident and relaxed. Number 3, stand up for yourself and your opinions. That means having difficult conversations and sometimes putting her in her place if she needs to be. Number 4, anticipating her needs and making decisions without her input. And number 5, be a sex machine, learn her body, and you will get the things you want. If you do these 5 things, then that gives a woman enough view of you to see you as a masculine energy guy, to where she'll feel more trusting to be able to get into her feminine energy versus having to stay in the state of mind of being masculine. Now, I will say this. Unfortunately, there are some women out there that no matter what you do, they're just in their masculine energy and they don't know how to tap out of it. They've been in it for too long, especially the older woman gets. Like by the time she's like 35, 36, if she's been playing the masculine role most of her life, it's going to be very, very hard for her to get out of that role. That said, that doesn't mean it's impossible. But for young women that you're meeting that, in their 20s that are, they're fighting between trying to make it in this world and be masculine, but want to be feminine enough to get a guy, then these are women that when you come along and you display your masculine energy, they are definitely going to appreciate you for it. Thank you for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode and catch new episodes right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out these other episodes so you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.